everybody, this is Geoff over at 5 Star Guitars, and we're here today with our old pal Heli Lanz. He's the Business Development Manager for Fender in the Pacific Northwest. We're excited to introduce a brand new product from Fender, the Tone Master Pro. So Heli, what is the Tone Master Pro?
Thanks, Geoff. I am excited to be here in the shop with you today. The Tone Master Pro is an all-in-one silent stage guitar workstation from Fender with over 1,000 impulse response amps, cabinets, and effects. We're launching the Tone Master Pro in conjunction with a pair of flat response or full range cabinets. This machine is both rugged and lightweight and uses an IEC power cable, not a large power supply, which means there's no adapter to lose or misplace before the gig. The pedal has USB connectivity for use with our desktop app and to allow for firmware updates, which is important to note because this product will grow with time as Fender maps new amps and effects. So don't forget to update yours as soon as you receive it to access more sounds right away.
Sounds great. Looks like it's fired up, man. Let's give it a listen.
Yeah, so as you're looking at the product, you can see that it's designed to go on the floor, but here in the studio, we've got it up on a table so that we can navigate and it's easier for you to follow along at home. Right away, you can see that this thing has a gorgeous full-color touchscreen in the center. The user interface on the Tone Master Pro will feel very much like a tablet or a phone, which hopefully for first-time users will make it feel familiar and very intuitive.
All right, so tell us how this is wired up.
So the Tone Master Pro comes set up to run in stereo. So we're sending some balanced stereo signal to the mixers, which is what you're hearing at home. But here in the studio, we've got a mono send running directly to the FR12 cabinet so that we can hear what's going on. The FR12 and FR10 are 1,000-watt flat response cabinets, which are essentially a powered speaker with a digital class power amp that's in disguise with the aesthetics of a Hot Rod Deluxe, hence the need for a balanced cable. The Tone Master Pro has both an instrument and a mic input, and there's a combo 1/4" or XLR input on the cab.
We had a chance to plug into this rig earlier this week, and I was really impressed at the response. It felt like an amp rather than a pedal into a flat response speaker. You know?
That was my experience as well. Let's start with running through some of the presets.
All right.
So there's a bank of 500 presets, which Fender populates with about 170 right out of the box, which leaves the user with about 330 blank spaces where you can populate with your own presets. So let's go ahead and jump in and look at some of those sounds that Fender gives you right out of the box. So you can see here on the pedal itself, the central group of 6 encoder buttons are actually what are telling you, it's what's telling you where the effects are. And the scribble strips, which are each of these little LCD screens, are telling you which preset is behind that button. You can then use the bank up and bank down buttons to navigate through the presets. So right now we've landed on a 65 Deluxe reverb, and there's a few other settings here in the first group.
Let me take a guess. I think I know what cutting edges. Let's see. It turned into the Who there.
Where the riff has no name.
Right.
So, yeah, we're on the first group of 6 presets, cutting edge. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek. I think we both know what that is. You can tell
Yeah.
You're plugged into, what do you got here, a UK 30-watt amp. You've got some delay. Things are kind of set up. As we bank through the different presets, let's find some others that we've got Big Ambient, Clean Machine, Blues Senior, Fascinating Cure. Something tells me you know what that is. British Crunch.
Dang the torpedoes.
Okay, yeah, 23 and 24. Dang the torpedoes. So you can see you've got a pair of UK amps here. I mean, that's spot on. The tone in the room, in case you guys aren't getting it at home, sounds just like some Mike Campbell. So as we bank up through some of these choices, Fuzzy Floyd, I think you know what that is. Dinosaurs, Pumpkin Smasher.
Jailbreaking Lizzie. Okay, all right, wait. Excellent.
Spot on. Okay, so let's cruise on through. You've got spoonful, trademark clean, slow burning.
You're right, Summer of...
Okay, Summer of Jimmy. Yes!
All right. Yeah.
Geoff Hendricks! I love it. Okay, so, I mean, the presets sound really, really good, right? Fender has done a great job of curating a whole bunch of presets that allow you to kind of dial in some really famous or iconic guitar tones without working really hard at anything. They're just in the box. But let's say for some reason you got in there and like, okay, as I'm listening to this Summer of Jimmy patch, I actually think, I mean, the Univibe sounds really good, but to me it actually is, it's overpowering. I think it needs to be dialed back. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how you adjust the presets or parameters once you're in a preset. So for this one, we're on the patch number 38 or preset number 38, the Summer of Jimmy. Let's go ahead and say I'd like to bring back the Univibe sound a little bit. So I'm going to use the touchscreen, right? I can press once. It'll bring up the effect that I want to adjust. Now, it's important to note that there are actually 3 different ways in which you can adjust a parameter on the Tone Master Pro. So right now I'd like to take the intensity and I want to dial it back. So I can press and hold on the intensity knob on my full LCD touchscreen, and if I bring my finger up and down while still holding, so there's full intensity, there's no intensity. So there's process 1 to adjust an effect. The other thing that I can do is I can do a single tap or touch, which should bring up a slider screen on the right-hand side of the LCD. So you'll note that I've got this big screen here, which I can drag or I can use the plus and minus feature, right, to dial things in. The other way that you can adjust parameters for each effect is that each of these buttons are actually custom created encoder knobs, so that once you're in an effect, the scribble strips will identify which parameter you can adjust. And right here in the middle, we can see that intensity is on this encoder wheel. I can turn this control and bring in full intensity or all the way back. Once you've got things dialed in the way you want them, then you would of course hit save and save that preset so that you don't lose any of your adjustments. So there you have it. Pretty easy to adjust things, and you've got 3 different avenues to go about changing any of the parameters.
Right on.
So I know we've gone over a lot here, and the presets sound absolutely fantastic, but I wanted to touch on a key feature of the Tone Master Pro, which is the ability to dial in almost anybody's rig in the digital space. So I wondered if we could figure out what your gigging rig is, and if we could jump in the Tone Master Pro and try and clone your live rig.
That sounds good. I thought you'd never ask. Okay, so live I'm using 2 amps at the same time, like one clean, one dirty. Is that, can you do it?
So we could put as many amps as we wanted to on this thing. Same thing with effects. We could have a huge signal chain. But let's start, like right now we're in the presets. We have our bank of 6 that's showing us where we're at. Let's go ahead and bank up and see if we can find some empty spaces where we can write our own presets. So we told you get about 170 presets right out of the box from Fender. Looks like 172 is a blank space. So blank canvas. Let's start fresh. What are you playing on? What's your rig?
All right, so the clean amp is 310 Bandmaster.
So let's start by adding a block. Let's get in and let's say I want to add an amp. Right now we're staring at all the Fender amps that are in the system. I've got twins, I've got deluxes, supers. You know what, it looks like I don't have a Bandmaster, which, don't worry about, because Fender's going to continue to map new impulse response amps and cabinets. I suspect a Bandmaster's in the future of this thing.
All right.
For right now, though, just for the folks at home, maybe let's pick something with some 10-inch speakers. Would a 59 Bassman work for a clean tone for you?
Yeah, I guess that'll have to
Okay,
do.
so 59 Bassman, the godfather of all tube amps. Let's start with dialing in our clean tone and make sure you're happy with the sound you're getting. So, yeah, I mean, right now we've got the channels jumped or bridged. So you've got volume for normal and volume for bright. I should mention that each of these custom encoder wheels allow you to control parameters on the amp. So like right now, we can bring our volumes down and dial in a clean tone. So are you full volume here on the guitar?
Yeah.
Now, do you want pristine clean, or are you okay with a little bit of dirt?
Little hair on the note would
Little
be good.
hair. Okay, treble middle bass, are you happy with the response and presence?
Let's bump the mids just a little bit.
Give you a little mid boost. Whoop. All right, there's enhanced mid presence.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe dial the bass back a little bit. Typically on a Bassman, people pull a little, get that flub out.
Right.
You happy with your clean tone?
Yeah, sounds good in
Okay.
here, man.
We could also, if we wanted, we could examine where the actual cabinet is mic'd. So from within each of the amp presets, you could choose a different mic or change where the microphone is placed in the room to capture a different sound. Like right now we're using a 57, which is pretty industry standard at most concert halls, bars, churches, etc. And what are we? We're an inch out off of the cap edge.
That's cool. All right, so you've got the depth, like the distance from, and then different spots on the speaker that are listed there.
So you can go from right on the speaker, you can see here 0 inches, and then 0.5, and then after that it's full inch increments. So you can get as far away from the speaker as about 6 inches. And then in terms of the microphones that we give you access to, condenser microphones, dynamic microphones, a ribbon mic, which is I think a Royer, like a tube preamp ribbon microphone, an SM7B, very popular studio choice for tons of artists and musicians. Do you want to give that a try?
Yeah.
It sounds pretty good. Okay, so we've got your clean amp in there. You said you were using 2 amps. What are you using?
A Marshall Silver Jubilee, like head, and a 212 cabinet.
Okay. Well, let's hit the plus block. Let's add another feature. So we'll scroll through some of the amps that are available to us. Bass Breakers, Blues Juniors, Deluxes, Twins, Vibro Kings. Okay, now we're getting into UK 30 Bright, Normal, JC Clean. That's like a Roland Jazz chorus, right?
Interesting that since Fender invented so many of these amplifiers that are being cloned, that they can actually call it out as like a twin or a Bassman. When we get here, I got a pretty good idea that this British Jubilee...
Plexi 800 Jubilee.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's exactly what you think it is, right? They should be pretty obvious.
Right.
Okay, so here's a British Jubilee. I've got a clean rhythm and a lead. What are you?
Let's try the lead.
Okay, so you're using the British amp or the Marshall as a dirty tone?
There we go.
Okay, so right now you're listening to both amps because we've got them in line, right,
Nice.
in the signal chain. But I suspect that's probably not how you're going to use it in a live rig. You want maybe one amp for clean, one for dirty.
Back and forth.
So let's take a moment, and I suppose let's start by bypassing the Fender, the Bassman. Now let's get into setting up the British Jubilee and make sure that it's... Okay, so I've got a 2x12 cabinet. Is that what you're after?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we can adjust some of the parameters. Are you enough gain, more gain?
That's plenty of
A little bit of mid presence.
It's interesting, like the way that this is scooped and taking the bass out of it is... It sounds good in here.
In the room, it sounds absolutely fantastic. So let's go ahead and assign a foot switch control so that if you wanted to, you could say, you know what, I want with my feet, I really quickly want to switch between my Fender Bassman and my Marshall distorted tone. So I'm going to hit foot switch assign. I'm going to choose which foot switch I want to assign control to. I want to turn things on and off, and I'm going to pick both amps for on-off, and I'm going to hit confirm. Now, I think what will happen is, because we assigned both amps to a single foot switch and one is bypassed, when I hit this, you can see it's
Nice.
toggling. So here's your Fender Bassman for your clean tone. Here's your Marshall, excuse me, your British Plexi or your British Jubilee for your dirty tone. Okay, so now you can switch between the two. Now, do we have about equal output? Sounds like maybe our gain channel's a little louder. So let's get in and maybe let's tell it the amp level. We want to bring the amp level down a little bit so that our volume between the two amps isn't quite, there's not such disparity. Feels like we're still a little bass heavy on the Bassman. That sounds pretty good. Okay, so now we've got our two amps. What are you using for effects?
Reverb, for sure.
Okay, so let's start. Now, this thing is sensitive in terms of where you're placing the effect, either in front of the amp or behind it. And for those of you at home who have amplifiers and you run lots of effects, you know, front of the amp, in front of the signal chain would be into the preamp of the amplifier. Putting it behind the amplifier would essentially be running it in the effects loop between the power amp and the speaker, if you will, for those of you who are familiar with that term. But let's start by adding an effect. Let's hit plus. Let's add an effect. And you can see in here, it groups them into different banks of effects. You've got stomp boxes, modulations, delays, reverb. Let's get into reverbs. Okay, I've got 63 spring convolution. I've got large hall, modulated large hall, cloud reverb, celestial reverb, nebula reverb. I mean, you're starting to get into lots of effects, but what are you looking for?
Let's use one of those Fender reverbs.
Of course. So maybe 65 spring?
Yeah.
So now we've got our 65 spring reverb in the
Perfect.
effects loop.
All right.
So let's hear it. So bypass, we're dry. Here's wet. Too much reverb. Sounds pretty good, actually. Okay, I'm gonna hit save so we don't lose it. So now, should we assign control to that foot switch, or do you want to add some more effects and then assign
let's add
them
some more
all?
effects. All right, so as long as we're at it, let's do a boost, a phaser, and a delay.
Boost, phaser, delay. Okay, so I'm guessing boost you're going to want in the front half of the amp. So let's hit add effects, stomp boxes. Okay, so I've got a couple of boosts right out of the gate. I've got a clean boost and a ranger boost. Maybe just try the clean boost and see how that hits the circuit. All right, so your boost is bypassed. On. A little brighter, a little louder. Let's goose the level a little bit. That hits it with a little bit of hair.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our boost in the front of the signal chain. And you said, what did you say, a phaser and a
phaser and a delay.
Of course. Okay, so let's do add a block. And I'd like to add you think phaser, you're running that in the front half of the circuit?
Yeah.
So let's go to modulation. And flangers, okay, phaser.
Color-coded.
Do you recognize the orange box in the Tone Master Pro? Is
Phaser 90.
Let's start with our Phaser 90. Okay. So you can tell that as I pulled the effect up, it allows you to audition them as you're scrolling through. If you don't like what you hear, just get to the next one. But right now we've got our phaser on. I can scroll through. Let's turn our boost off so we're just hearing the phaser. Speed and depth, everything's kind of where you want it.
Let's see. Let's turn the speed down. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Sounds awesome.
Okay. So we've got our phaser, our boost, our reverb, and you said delay was maybe the other thing you're using on your rig? Okay. Again, I think with delay, I'd put it in the back half of the signal chain, meaning I'd put it in the effects loop, certainly with a Silver Jubilee type product. Delays are always going to sound better in the back half of the amp or the signal chain. Let's go ahead and choose effects. Let's get into delay. Okay, audio swell delay, digital delays, echo filters, memory delay. Even the box kind of looks like what you might recognize on your pedal board, if you will.
Yeah, rhymes with the memory can. Yeah.
There's a space delay, a stereo space delay, a tape echo. For all your Pink Floyd tones. What are you thinking? What kind of delay is in your rig? What do you actually use?
Fucking old Ibanez digital delay. Nothing fancy.
So you want to create a digital delay in here?
Yeah.
Because we have a couple of choices. Let's go digital delay mono.
Perfect.
Since that's what you're using on your rig, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so our other effects are bypassed. Let's bypass our reverb. Okay, so now we're just listening to the delay through the 59 basement, I believe. You can obviously tap tempo with the button on the encoder on the far right and the bottom, but are you getting what you need out of this delay?
So let's reduce the feedback to... Cool. And then the time, let's see.
Let's maybe take your mix down a little bit so it's not quite so wet. Maybe a little less.
Yeah, cool.
How's that sound? We're there?
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, so now we've got your two amps. You've got a Bassman for the clean, a Plexi for the dirty. You've got a boost, a phaser, a reverb, and a delay. Is there anything else that's currently on your pedal board or the rig that you take to perform?
No, man, that is exactly it.
Okay, so I think the only thing that's left to do is perhaps assign some foot switch control so you can actually turn things on and off, right?
Okay.
So, again, let's get in.
I'm I was curious, like, so are these on this side because they're in front, whereas these are in the effects loop?
Correct.
So that's what the representation is for?
So it shows you on the signal chain that your instrument's on the left side, and we're reading just like we do in English, left to right, but instrument on the left all the way to your output on the far right, which means exactly what you're thinking. So anything you put to the left of the amplifiers is going to be in front of the preamp. Anything you put to the right of your signal chain for the amplifiers will be basically inserted into the effects loop.
Okay. All right, cool. That makes sense.
So if we want to be able to control any of these parameters, let's use the foot switch assign feature, and let's put some controls right at Geoff's feet for his live rig, and let's say, what would you like these buttons to control if we were going to assign them?
Okay, cool. So let's make the boost far left.
Okay, so let's choose far left button, turns it on and off for the boost. Confirm. So now when we go out, we should be able to, here, let's turn the boost on so that when we, here, the boost button is eliminated. You can see that the boost pedal's actually lit up and engaged. And when I turn the button off, it's off. So what would you like in your second?
Delay.
Okay, so delay, we'll choose this button, turns on and off the delay. And now we should be able to turn our delay on and off. Right? What would you like the next control to be? So you've got boost, delay, I think you've got reverb and...
phaser. Let's do the phaser and reverb on the...
Phaser first?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so let's go parameter on, off, phaser. Let's turn the phaser on so that when we use the button, it behaves the way we want it to. There you go. And then you said the last one would be reverb?
Yeah.
So let's do foot switch assign, final button, on and off, reverb, confirm, and then let's make sure that the pedal's actually on so that it does what we think it's going to do. There you go. So now you can turn on boost. delay, reverb, and phaser.
And switch amps?
And you can switch amps.
Fantastic! All right, man, this sounds great. I'm giving it 2 horns up. All right, let's get to the show.
Let's get to the gig, man.
So, Heli, are there any options for bass players in here?
I'm actually really glad you asked, because there are a few presets which would be perfect for a bass player, or actually if you're somebody who's an acoustic performer who sings, the Tone Master Pro actually has both an instrument input as well as an XLR, so let's maybe plug a bass in and give it a listen.
All right, well, how about that one?
All right, so here you go.
Cool. All right. So
we left off on the Summer of Jimmy preset, and you'll notice that actually as the tuner's on, I can scroll through the presets with the tuner on so you can silently find your next patch without the audience knowing what's going on. So we left off on Summer of Jimmy. Let's bank up. I want to say that the preset for bass is somewhere in the 50s. Here we go. 51, studio bass. So because the FR cabinets, the 10 and the 12, are full range flat response cabinets, they actually are perfectly designed to handle the frequency range of either a bass guitar, an acoustic guitar, or even a vocal microphone. You can see here on our signal chain, the bass is going into a studio compressor, then into a tube preamp. Right now, at the moment, there aren't really any bass amps loaded into the Tone Master Pro, but as Fender maps more cabinets and amps, something tells me some bass products will land in there soon. And then the last thing in the effects chain is an EQ pedal.
sounds good in here, man.
Sounds pretty good. Yeah, in the room, it doesn't sound like that you have a bass plugged into a guitar amp. It sounds like it sounds convincing, as if you were plugged into a bass amp, which is great.
Yeah, feels good.
So maybe now let's listen to some acoustic guitar and vocal.
I thought you'd never asked.
I know you've been waiting to sing to me this morning.
Yes! I brought my own microphone from home.
Did you?
I did. Well, in lieu of like a spare tire or road flares, I just have a car full of microphones and various adapters, just in case, I need to set up a PA on the side of the road.
So, as we bank up, space number 104 is already dialed in for acoustic and vocal. So you can see that you've got two signal chains, right? One is for the acoustic guitar, that's up here in the top. If I go into foot switch mode, we can at least see what effects are turned on and off. Right now, the signal chain for the guitar is a studio compressor, a Royal Tone distortion pedal or overdrive is actually how it's set right now, in case you needed to play some lead. You're into an Acoustasonic amplifier, and you've got a little bit of digital delay. So let's maybe flip into the electric guitar setting on the Acoustasonic, and I'll give you a little bit of dirt and delay. Sounds great. Okay, so the vocal chain, let's hear a little bit of vocals through the microphone.
Hey.
The vocal signal chain, again, you're plugged into a studio compressor, into a studio preamp, right?
Studio preamp.
Finally into an EQ pedal, and then you've also got a little bit of delay.
Hey.
So as we are looking here, we can turn on, right now you've got the compression and the large plate reverb on. If I want a little delay,
Hey. Ooh.
I can turn my delay off.
How about now? Oh, no repeats.
And then here's just your dry signal straight into the studio preamp on the vocal.
All right.
No reverb, no compression.
Check. All right, fantastic. You got auto-tune on there?
So here in the room, it actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah. No, this sounds...
So if you're somebody that is an acoustic duo or solo gigging person, and you're used to bringing a huge PA system and lots of gear, maybe you're even somebody who uses a looper. I should mention that the Tone Master Pro actually has some looping features. So this is one of those products that it might eliminate some gear for you. You could probably bring this, your Acoustasonic, and an FR cab to the gig and save your back a little bit from bringing all the extra equipment to get the gig
Yeah,
done.
because effectively that is the PA. All right, rad. Excellent.
All right, well, that's the Tone Master Pro. You want to play us out, Geoff?
All right, you have to sing with. 3. So Sally can wait. She knows it's too late as we're walking on by. My soul's like. Don't look back in anger. Don't look back in anger. Tone Master Pro. Right on. Okay, so there you have it. Thank you, Heli, the Tone Master Pro. Check it out at 5 Star Guitars or 24/7 at 5starguitars.com.